I'm going to show you 6 steps you can take to get your emotions to work for you, not against you. And this comes from Tony Robbins' book, Awaken The Giant Within. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know that I basically read a lot of books because I'm obsessed with learning how to become a better person overall, like reaching my full potential in different areas. Like if it's whether, for finances, it could be with health, it could be with success, with anything that has to do with self-improvement, self-help. That's the type of stuff I like to look, research, and share with you. So if that sounds interesting to you, like you don't want to do your own research, what I'm going to do is basically just tell you where I get my research from. So I'll mention the books it came from, an article it came from, and then that way, if you want to further investigate, you can, and look into those things. But basically, the whole point is for me to help you school your brain, hence the name, School Your Brain. Today's topic is going to be about your emotions. Did you know that your emotions are actually a call to action? And one way I think about it is like with the superheroes. You ever seen like a Spider-Man or Superman or Batman? There's always some type of a signal that calls their attention, and then they go and take action. Similarly, your emotions work the same way, where it's trying to bring you to attention that something's going on. And if you don't know what to do with those signals, it's going to be very difficult to take action. So my goal is to share some advice by Tony Robbins in his book, Awaken the Giant Within. He identifies 6 steps you can follow to make your emotions work for you and not against you. So I'm going to go over those 6 steps with you, and let me know what you think. As a side note, I just want to point out that I'm reading also right now a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And one thing that they point out that kind of relates to this idea is the fact that you need to be an observer of your mind. So I'm not sure if you ever recognize this, but like sometimes you get like emotional and you don't think about what's really going on. You just react. And what you need to do, according to Eckhart Tolle, is basically become an observer. He says like a watcher. And it's actually, there's a lot of truth to this because I started doing this recently, where I would get some type of an emotion and I noticed like, oh, I wonder why I'm feeling this way. So now it's starting to change my perception of emotions. Before, I would just get emotional, not think about it. I just basically let it take over me. And that's how you know that you're not becoming a watcher. You're not observing your emotions. You're not aware of it. You're not conscious, right? If you're just reacting, you're unconscious. And the goal is to become conscious and in the moment. So there's a lot of ideas that connect to this. And one thing I want to also point out is that I'm going to be creating playlists. So this is going to be a part of the playlist of emotional intelligence, because we want to figure out how to become better at recognizing what's going on in this very present moment. But basically, Eckhart Tolle says that we need to be an observer, a watcher. So by practicing this, you're going to get better and better at it. But I'm at the beginning stages, but I'm starting to recognize that I'm becoming a better observer of what's going on. So like the other day, for example, like I'm starting this YouTube channel, right? And it's in the beginning, I know it's going to be a very slow process to get subscribers, for people to like your videos, because there's so much content out there. And the first thought, a random thought came to my mind is like, man, you're not ever going to do anything with this. And my first reaction was like, interesting. Like, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. And that's me recognizing that those thoughts are just random. So like, I'm not in control of those things, but you are in control of how you react to your thoughts. So that's the key part. You are in control of how you react to them. So I could have just like, man, you're right. I'm just, just quit, right? So I'm reacting to my emotions. But once you become an observer, you start to see the way you think. You're like, interesting. So it's kind of like you got to be like a child about the whole process. Like, be curious and don't take anything serious on whatever thoughts you come to mind. But the point of this exercise is not to reject your emotions. It's not to say, oh, I'm not going to feel anything. I'm a superhero. I'm going to overpower these emotions. It doesn't work. Willpower is like a muscle. It can only work for so long. Your emotions will always take over. So your job is to distance yourself from your emotions, your thinking, and just say, okay, what is this trying to tell me? So, take it from a stance of you're trying to figure out what it's trying to tell you. It's a signal for a reason. So that's what these steps are going to pretty much help us out with. So let's go over those 6 steps. So I have the book right in front of me, Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. And I'm going to share those 6 steps and some other ideas that come to mind. The first step is to identify what you're feeling. And I'll probably have to create a separate video for this, because right now the maximum minutes I can produce is about 15 minutes. So if you like and subscribe, that definitely helps me, so that eventually I can make longer content than 15 minutes. But for now, I'm just going to say that the first step is you have to identify what it is you're feeling. So I'll create another video to that. When it's ready, I'm going to link it to this one as well. But basically, you have to be able to figure out, what is the exact emotion you are feeling. Because if you can't identify the type of emotion you're feeling, you're not going to be able to know what the signal is that it's trying to tell you that's going on. So that's step 1. Step 2 is just to be aware that your emotions are there to support you, is there to signal you, to warn you, to figure something out. So it's not there because it wants to hurt you. It's not trying to do anything intentional to you. It wants to be there to say, listen, there's something that is going on right now that we have to address. So if you try to brush things under the carpet, it's not going to help. If you try to fight it, it's not going to help. You got to just kind of accept it. And that's kind of like what meditation, for example, is about. Is basically not trying to reject things or ignore things or become numb to them. The whole point of it is that you want to acknowledge what's going on and see, what can I do with this? Once you're aware of what's going on, what can I do with this? So what is it trying to tell me? Keep in mind that they're there to support you. They're not there to hurt you, harm you, or to scare you away, or to try to, make you fight with it. No, it's there because there's something that's going on in that present moment that's causing these emotions. So your job is to figure out, or not figure out, but your job is to understand that it's there as a support. And that's going to lead us to step 3. And then step 3 is to get curious about the message the emotions are trying to tell you. And Tony Robbins identifies 4 questions you can ask yourself in this step to help you out. The first question is, what do I really feel? So you really have to understand, what is it you are really feeling in that very precise moment. So what do you feel? For example, are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling angry? What is it that you're feeling exactly? And again, I'll come up with a different video to point out the different emotions and understand what the message is that they're trying to tell you. Then the next question is, what do you have to believe in order to make you feel what you're feeling right now? In other words, what they're saying is basically that maybe you believe that somebody is intentionally trying to hurt you, and that's why you feel upset. So like, what is it you're believing in that moment that's causing you to feel that way? So you have to, kind of take a step back and say, why am I feeling this way? And then what is it I believe that's causing me to feel this way? Because a lot of times it goes down to your belief system. So like I said, for example, I believe that they're trying to scam me, or they're out to get me, and that's what's causing me to feel this way. Then the next question is like, what are you willing to do to come up with a solution in this exact moment right now? So what are you willing to do to come up with a solution? So for example, maybe they are, they're trying to scam you. So maybe you could come up with a question to ask the other person to get a little more clarity, right? If they're trying to upset you on purpose, ask a question to figure out what it is that's really going on, rather than assume or believe what the other person's trying to do. And then the last question is, what can I learn from this? So I'm feeling this way, so what am I able to learn from the situation that's going on? Well, I probably learned one thing is that when people try to scam me or upset me, I'm going to start feeling this way. So that's one thing that I'll know about myself. So again, these are just 4 questions you can ask yourself. Answers are going to be different depending on how you think about the answers to those questions. But don't forget, the purpose of these questions is to help you get curious about, why am I really feeling this way? Step 4 is to get confident. So keep in mind, whatever emotion you're feeling right now, it's a very good chance that you felt it in the past before. And guess what? You survived it, you overcame it. So that's one thing you got to recognize, is that, oh man, I've dealt with this before, and I know I can deal with it again, definitely. So it's being confident about that. And, think about, like, what have you done in the past to help you get through it? I'll give you an example. In my case, I'm a teacher, if you didn't know that. But I was dealing with a parent that I was calling, about a student, and they were just on the phone just yelling at me. And I'm just like, whoa, and what was interesting is that now that energy, that negative energy, it transferred onto me. And in my head, before I was, studying this, I was trying to fight it. Like, man, it didn't bother me. I try to ignore it as if it didn't bother me. So try to mask your emotions, and it didn't work, because that thought stayed with me all day. But one solution I came up with was, I remember that I did research on multitasking. Your brain cannot come up with 2 different ideas at the same time. So I didn't want to think about that parent yelling at me anymore. What did I do? I started reading, because I love to read. So I started reading more books. And every time I read books, I didn't think about that person. And then when I stopped reading the books, guess what? That the yelling came back into my mind again. So I went back to reading. And then I recognized, after doing this several times, is that I actually kind of liked when somebody tries to, put me down or bring me negative energy, because it gave me fuel, motivation to keep reading, because the fact that you don't want to think about it, but you can't control the fact you can't just ignore it. It's going to stay in your mind, and you can't control that. But I could control reading. I could read whenever I want. So that gave me a lot of fuel to read books. So I found that very interesting. I was like, oh, this is a really good solution. The fact that you cannot multitask will help you get fuel. So now I have a better understanding of when people say, oh, let the people hate on you, that's going to bring you more fuel. Right? They only fuel me. And it's so true. So taking that energy and transferring it into something else that's going to make you a better person. So that's just an example I wanted to share. Step 5 is basically to make sure you can handle the situation again in a future date. And one thing that I did is, when some of the books that I was reading, I'm actually more confident that I can handle a situation like that even better, because I read a book by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, and they showed me how to take someone that's being irrational, like the person yelling at me on the phone, and how to kind of de-escalate the situation. And I'll probably come up with a video on that, but there's different tactics you can use, and I learned a new tactic that I'm actually excited to use in the future whenever I come across a similar situation. So I'm actually even more confident now to handle a very similar situation in a future date. So that's what step 5 is all about. And then the final step is to get excited and take action. And I'm actually very excited about that because, like I said, I learned some new things based on the fact that when that person made me upset, I know I'm not going to be able to get rid of that energy, but I know I can use that energy to come up with something good. So I actually remember telling myself this too, is that I was very excited. I was like, man, I can't wait for something like this to happen again because I have more energy, more fuel to go read some more books. So I'm very excited about another opportunity. So it's very interesting that once you start changing your perspective on things and once you're confident in how you can handle your emotions, you are not afraid to come across that situation in a future date. And those are the 6 steps you can take to master your emotions. I would love any feedback you have. If you learned one thing, please leave it in the comments so I know what it is you learned. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments as well. That way I can consider it for my next video that I come up with. I hope this video really helped you out in some way. So until next time, school your brain.